Wow. I mean, Trump in the seat of the White House president-elect. They've taken the Senate. These markets have exploded. What's your first take?
Yeah, it's a very decisive victory, obviously. Clearly the markets have responded quite well. There was already this assumption that Trump would win in the markets anyway. You've heard the Trump trade, and that was very evident in the last month or so. But clearly you saw the equity markets jump quite a lot yesterday, still doing so today. I think fixed income markets, you'll see long-term yields continue to rise. They already rose a lot in the last month or two. FX markets as well, the dollar is up, will continue probably to be strong for a while. So you've seen, I think, the reaction to what is a very convincing victory, and one that I think the markets will sort through. Doesn't mean this is going to last. It always is a pretty normal and consistent reaction of the markets to a victory like this.
And this is what I'm hearing, a logical day one and day two reaction. Right. You look after the markets business as well.
True.
How huge a day did you have yesterday and today? How big a day has it been?
It was a big day. It was a lot of movement, a lot of traders focusing on still I think the enormity and the significance of the victory. No, I don't think any traders thought it was going to be that much. So I think a lot were maybe squaring positions and trying to look at where their positions were. But it was a lot of activity yesterday.
Does it unleash a new vein of business here in the USA?
I think it will. I think the U.S. will be initially the biggest beneficiary. Clearly, I think growth is the major byword that I'm hearing from all. If there's a lot of fiscal stimulus, which President-elect Trump has suggested, if there's a continuation of the economy, which is already pretty strong to begin with, I think you'll see the U.S. being the driving force of global growth. That produces opportunities for us as a bank, all banks. And I think you've seen that reaction with the banking industry really being one of the major beneficiaries.
But you do warn that there's a potential sting in the tail if President Trump manages to get through the majority of what he does. What is that sting in the tail, and how bad can that be?
Yeah, the sting in the tail, I think you're probably referring to as tariffs. And, clearly there has been a lot of electioneering around tariffs,
sure,
a lot of discussions around tariffs. But you have to start with the premise, our tariffs are already pretty high. President Biden never really lowered tariffs that he inherited from President Trump. President Trump comes back, has said he's going to put significant tariffs, 60% on China, 10 to 20% around the rest of the world. That is something to look to as a potential risk on the horizon. I think most party or market participants are looking at that. I think many industrial companies are looking at that as well, because that clearly will create unpredictability around supply chains.
Well, let's just drill in a little bit, because you are the biggest trade bank in the world. That's what you keep telling us. So my question to you is, if that's your worry, are you preparing for a headwind from tariffs or a hurricane?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. We are the largest trade bank, as you mentioned. We look at 17 different trade corridors. We focus on that, and they're going in all different directions. I think it does produce unpredictability. I think we're going to be working with our clients to sort through, because they've all been adjusting their supply chains, as you know. There's been the China plus one, China plus two strategy in place for a fair amount of time. But clearly this will add to that level of unpredictability. We're there to help. We can sort through, and we can help different clients look at different trade corridors to maximize the benefit. And I will say this, I know we all think about companies immediately moving back their production to the United States. It's a very complex process. Most big factories take 5 to 7 years to conceive and to build. And so you can't just move back immediately. You're going to have to move your production and your supply chains in a way that best maximizes efficiency for each company. And
we don't even know who can get the 15% tax, if that's what he manages to get through, to redomicile here to the United States. Are any of the clients actually talking about that?
Not yet, but I'm sure they'll start doing so. Now, again, it's tough to do. You've got to find a site. You've got to set up the factory. You've got to hire people. Very difficult to do very quickly.
Look, the last time round, you were HSBC in the eye of the storm from Mike Pompeo. The comments were pretty aggressive. How do you avoid, as the biggest trade bank in the world, being in the eye of the Trump storm too?
Yeah, no, we've certainly focused on improving our relations with the various constituents in Washington. I go there a lot to make sure that people know who we are. We are the world's largest trade bank. We talk to them in those terms, how we benefit U.S. companies. You may know that we do support U.S. companies around the world. They export a lot out of the United States.
What kind of engagement have you had with the Trump team, if at all?
We've had some. We're waiting to see who that team is. I think that is probably the big question on everyone's mind today. But look, we'll continue to be in Washington. We continue to reemphasize that we are a force of good for certainly any sort of trading relationship. Yes, we're very big in Hong Kong. We actually provide very high standards. We're the clear of all payments and transactions in Hong Kong, but we provide that under U.S. standards. So we add a lot to the world's ability to have a very well-controlled and well-managed type of payment system.
Well, look, tell me this then. There is this narrative in the markets that Donald Trump's rhetoric is worse than his actual tariff bite.
Yeah.
Are you banking on that?
I think we'll have to sort through that. I mean, I think clearly electioneering is not policymaking.
Yes.
I think we'll see what you can get away with. I think, clearly you have to look at it in a larger and broader context, because if you put on tariffs, you should expect that the counterparty is going to put on tariffs to you. There'll be retaliatory tariffs. And you have to look at what that impact would be on the American economy. It is often negative. So I do think it's easier to say, let's put on tariffs. It's harder to actually think through them and do so in a way that is maybe more targeted, more productive. I do think we will have more tariffs, however.
And then you get counter tariffs, which is your worst nightmare, really.
It is retaliatory tariffs that will cause, I think, the world growth to fall. It is actually in many ways that I've looked at it, and we have lots of economists looking at that as well. We will show you that the U.S. could actually be hurt the most if there are retaliatory tariffs from China, from the EU, et cetera. And all of our trading partners have had 2 years to think about this. So back in 2018, they weren't really thinking about it. Now they've thought about it, and they've thought about it very thoroughly. For instance, I think the EU has said that if there are tariffs, they will retaliate in a fast and furious way. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's going to be a very complex picture.
Now, you've had time to think about the new job. I know that you have formed, you executed this combination, this grand combination of investment banking, commercial banking, and you've got markets as well. You've got a heck of an acreage to look after. But you did this in Latin America. Simplify it for me, simplify it for the market. What is this gig?
Yeah, well, firstly, it starts with the premise that we already have strong results. Our strategy is not changing. We're very, very comfortable with our strategy. So this is not a strategic change in the least. What this really tries to do, Manus, is to simplify the organization. We're big, we're complex, we operate in 60 countries, and historically we've tried to simplify. We've never really gotten to the level we should. So this is really about trying to simplify the organization, delayering it where we can, and really looking at what our strengths are as a firm. In the main, we're a very large wholesale bank. In fact, this creates one of the largest wholesale banks in the world. So putting it all together, what we want to do is to bring our various coverage organizations together. We have a very large commercial bank. We have a large corporate bank. We have an investment bank. That will all be put together. We've already done that in 39 different markets, if you suggested. LATAM we did recently. It's worked quite well because we take uncertainty out of it. We take layers, we take differences of strategy. And we're one strategy, one go-to-market approach in a much more simplified context.
To get investment bankers and commercial bankers to play together, to make money for the institution, is it going to involve a scale of rethinking about bonus remuneration? If you want to create one team, one dream, that is a hard thing to do on remuneration.
Yeah, and that is clearly one of the objectives. That's clearly one of the challenges, is to really create the one dream, one team. We've done it in the past. Clearly, we've done it in those 39 countries. I actually think this simplifies it, because if you have one coverage organization, you have an investment bank, you have a markets operation, you have our transactional banking operations, all running side by side to a very large, now much more harmonized coverage organization.
But will you change the remuneration structure? Do you think there's going to be a radical overhaul of your remuneration structure?
No, not really. I think it's already exists today. They already work quite well together. We don't really need to, because it actually works today. We think it can work better by simplifying and give people a very clear direction.
Look, George has cut down. He talked about an inevitability of job cuts.
Yes.
Look at the executive board. I mean, he sliced that from 18 to 12.
Yeah.
Can I expect a similar cull within the management structures, the layers that you want to take out? Are we going to see that scale of downsizing?
Yeah, now George was very, I think, upfront and frank. There will be job losses. However, our approach is very, very different from what you normally see. We have a strategy. We're not going to change the strategy. We're taking an organizational design and marrying it with the strategy. So we're purposely, doing so in a very thoughtful way. It's a purposely built type of approach. What we don't want to do, and everyone is asked, what's the number? How many headcount are going to be reduced? That will come out of what we're doing today. So what we did not want to do is to come out with a approach that had a headcount number. That means you have to backfill job losses into a number. What we want to do is to create a strategy that fits with our organizational design, and everything else will come out of it.
Let me push you a little bit more. I will push you just another time,
I'm sure you will,
which is, I look at what he did with the board, and I say to myself, this is not hundreds of jobs losses. Let's quantify it in percentage. You want to simplify the bank. Is that taking out 10%, 20%? What is a reasonable expectation?
And what I'd say, yes, we started with senior people because in order to simplify the organization, you have to you really delayer the organization. That starts at the top. We wanted to set an example. This is not junior people being let go. We're going to start with the top. We're going to work down. We're being very thoughtful about that. We're going to work through that process. We've been very upfront. There will be job losses, and it will be concentrated amongst a more senior cadre of different employees. And we'll work through the numbers. It's not going to be something that we're going to take lightly. We're going to be very thoughtful about it. There will be a number. We're going to give you the number sometime in February. I will say at the same time, we're working very quickly. We're working at pace, and we're going to be thoughtful, but we're going to come out with a design that really achieves our objectives at really simplifying this organization.
To simplify an organization and to get everybody on board, it's got to be done almost at a unified moment in time. Is this going to be a painful couple of months with a sole execution, or is it going to be drip, drip, drip?
It's definitely not drip, drip, drip. I've been in drip or type of restructurings. Very painful for our employees, but very painful for clients. And we're very much aware that this is distracting, this is disruptive. So we're going to try to do this as quickly as possible. I'm talking weeks before we announce the first level, and that will be followed by several other weeks. I mean, we're going to be working very, very quickly. So by the time we get to February, not only are we going to have a number in place, we're going to have an organizational structure in place.
Can you clear up something for me? Because for months, for years, I've been talking about and listening to Ping An wanting to break you up.
Right.
Not break you up. Is this your fill or kill moment to the market in terms of breakup narrative? Can you kill it?
I will kill it. I will tell you, this is not a precursor to a breakup, splitting between East and West. That's a managerial construct. And in no way are we contemplating a breaking up of the institution. In fact, what this does, it highlights the fact we're very integrated. So what I do, in fact, is to bring together our Eastern and our Western markets, put it together. We drive cross-border revenue. We help companies who have an international ambition realize that ambition, whether they're sending their products abroad through our trade channels or whether they're setting operations abroad themselves. This is not a breakup. We're not doing that at all. Our strategy is working. We don't need to break up. Look at our results recently. Very, very impressive results. We're going to do this in a thoughtful way that magnifies and amplifies what we do best, which is our cross-border capabilities.
Why are you and George kicking back against everything that Noel Quinn did not want to do?
I wouldn't say Noel didn't want to do it. I think Noel was critical because he set the path. He was the one that really got us into a much stronger shape. Again, I think all of our very good results that we've shown lately are really due to Noel's leadership and his tenure at the company. What I think he did very well is put us to a point where we now have the confidence to go to that next step. So, as I mentioned, we had put together these various coverage forces in 39 countries beforehand. He was very well aware. He was very supportive. He helped me, in fact, put together the Latin American strategy. So he wanted to make sure we did it right. He wanted to make sure we did it in the right context with the right level of confidence, and that's what we have today.
What's your secret sauce?
Our secret sauce for the firm or for me? Or?
For the restructuring.
We
all need a bit of secret sauce. What's your secret sauce for this restructuring? Come on.
Look, to do it fast, to do it thoughtfully, to do it consistently, and really make sure everyone understands exactly what we're doing. So we're going to communicate a lot. As I told our board when we were doing this, I've been through many. I've been through a lot that were very poorly done, so I know what not to do, and I think I know what to do as well. So we have a whole team working on this. we are not going to leave any stone unturned and being very thoughtful on what makes this a success.
You step up, which means there is a vacancy for CEO USA. How quickly will we know the process? Has that started? How close are you to appointing a new CEO in the United States?
Process has started. You will know soon. We don't really have the luxury.
Soon?
Soon is in a matter of weeks, not months, I would say. And in fact, most of the senior appointments will be a matter of weeks, not months. And we are, again, working very quickly. I need someone to be in the seats because I've got a lot of other things, obviously, to do. And so that process, you can just assume, has started as we sit here today.